Shalom from Jerusalem, and the weekly portion of Shoftim, Judges, is talking about appointing the judges. Interesting enough, we are right now in the month of Elul, which is 1 month before Rosh Hashanah, New Year, Day of Judgment. And the Torah tells us that the whole month is the best month to really prepare to the Day of Judgment, because this is a time where God's presence is the most available to us to help us for this preparation. So let's see how the Torah helps us and how we can prepare ourselves to this day. But first of all, let's read in the beginning of the Torah, and I'm going to read: appoint for yourself judges and police. Shoftim is police or guards for your tribes, right? To make sure that administered honest judgment for people. Now the word here is tzedek, which is righteous judgment. We'll see what's the difference. Do not bend justice. Do not give special consideration to anybody that don't recognize faces, it says. Do not take bribes, since bribes make the wise blind and pervert the words of the righteous. And then it says, pursue perfect honestly. Again, it's a translation, and it says tzedek, tzedek, right? The righteousness you should pursue. So let's look at these sentences and ask ourselves, what is Torah asking us to do? Now, first of all, obviously talk about the judicial system, talks about judges, and Torah tells us that the righteous judge is a partner of God in creation of the world. Not less than that. So the qualification of the judge has to be, scrupulous, meaning that he has to be a learned person, honest person, wise person, an amazing person, right? That's who the judge, a Torah judge, has to be. But then we have to ask ourselves another question. It's who the Torah is written for? Is the Torah written for judges? Is the Torah written for people who appoint judges? Yes, of course. But it's also Torah written for us. And so if Torah written for us, how does it apply to us? And Arizal, the greatest Kabbalist, says that, when we're talking about appoint judges and the policemen in your gates, what are those gates? Those gates are the gates of our bodies, the gates of our mind. So these gates are 2 eyes, 2 ears, nose, mouth, hands, feet, which is a sense of touch. So what Arizal is telling us is that, we have to appoint judges, and then of course the guards. Now, where are we looking? What is coming out of our mouth? What are we listening to? Are you listening to Lashon Hara, God forbid, all kind of gossip? No way. Touching, the sense of touch has to be appropriate. So this is the judges and this is the guards that we really need to put for ourselves. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev, he takes this concept one more step, and he says that, what it is, what's Torah talking about? Torah is telling us that we should appoint the right and righteous judges in our gates. And what are those gates? Gates are the heavenly gates, the spiritual gates. What he means? He means that, we're judged in principle, midah keneged midah, which is measure for measure. So when we judge people kindly, then that's how we're going to be judged. So the gates are where we're putting judges is the spiritual gates. When we judge other people and ourselves, righteously and kindly, then that's how it's going to return to us. So again, the gates are the heavenly gates, and we appoint judges, and the Shoftim, the administrator of the judgments, in principle, midah keneged midah, what comes to us. Now, Arizal in Kabbalah says one more point. Yes, that's true, but when the soul departs from this world and the person passes on to another world, that's exactly what happened with the soul. Because, there is many different spiritual dimensions, and each of the spiritual dimensions, spiritual worlds, if you want, it also have gates. And in some of these worlds we will be let in. Why? Because in this life we, through proper judgment, we appointed the proper judges. and administrators, and some of the gates are going to be closed to us because we close them in this life. So the gates in which we appointing judges and the guards are the spiritual gates as well. Let's go back to us today, and Rabbi Milevsky points out another thing. He says, look, it says that you should appoint judges and guards in order to judge people in a righteous way. But he asked the question, wait a minute, but guards, policemen, they don't judge. They administrate justice, but they have no right to judge. Why is the Torah telling us that we should appoint the judges and the guards to judge? And here's the incredible difference between the Jewish court and the modern court is that the judge can also be a guard. What is he guarding? He guarding the morals of the nation. He guarding the spiritual health of the nation. So therefore, the Torah judge have authority. See, if the Torah judge see that some kind of wise lawyer goes like this, and it bends the rules, not bends the rules, but they're trying to make something because of this point, but it's immoral. The Torah judge can stop this kind of lawyer, this kind of person, and says, you know what, sir, you're right, according to the technicalities, you're right, but you're perverting morality. This is something that the judges today cannot do in the system. But remember, judges, Torah judges, are the Torah scholars. So they are guarding, again, a morality of Torah. I gave you an example. There was a case, it's a different example. It's a case that a rich person is suing a poor person for the damage. And the judge says, you're right, to the rich person, you're absolutely right. The poor person have to pay this damage, he is guilty. And then the judge looks at the rich person and says, and now I'm speaking not as a judge, but as your rabbi. And I'm telling you that you're obligated to give tzedakah, to give the charity to this poor man, so he can pay the damage that he owes you, because he has no money. This is kind of things that's sort of unheard in the modern court. But nevertheless, the judges have right, Jewish judges have right to go beyond to guard the morality and the spirit of the Torah. Okay, so now we're talking about really, you see, judging ourselves. So Torah tells us, the first thing is that don't accept bribe. Who is this giving us bribes? And the answer is our Yetzer Hara, our evil inclination. How the evil inclination gives us bribe? The bribe is this momentary pleasure that the Yetzer Hara promises us in order, if we break the law. So this is the bribe. If we accept the bribe, Torah says this is it. It's like, you can't see straight afterwards. And usually what mind does, it just begins to apologize for why we should do it and make excuses for why we should do it. That's one way. Another thing is that all the qualification of the judges have to be applied to our own judgment. So, what does it says? The righteousness you should pursue. There's a couple of them. Rabbi Bahai says it talks about words and deeds. It says that you should pursue it when it's beneficial for you, and it's even not beneficial for you. You should still be righteous. Rabbi Levitzky Berdichev said, but you know what it's talking about, that you should be merciful. You should be merciful to yourself, you should be merciful to other people. Very often the Yetzer Hara, always Yetzer Hara judges us, it's a crooked judge. So how do we recognize it? Well, anytime that any voice that is judgmental voice in us and other people that speak in a harsh tone, demeaning tone, puts us down, and so on, you know this is a crooked judge. And you tell this part in yourself, remember that any judge has the partners with God in creation. So align yourself with God. Align yourself with, and remember, God is merciful, God is loving. And God is telling us that if we have to talk and we even admonish ourselves or tell something to ourselves, it has to be a pleasant voice, it has to be done properly. It has to be a positive criticism. Any other voice is a crooked judge. So let us begin to discern and judge ourselves properly from Jerusalem. Shalom, shalom.